Hi Annika,
Hi,
welcome to the channel.
thank you.
Okay, everyone, this is Hanneke, as I've mentioned. She is an accountant, and I thought we'll have a little bit of a fun video on accounting. I know a lot of creative people aren't all that keen on talking about their accounts and their finances, so this is the very reason why I want a video on it on the channel. I will just jump right into it.
Sure.
Why would you run a company or register a company, and why would you be a sole proprietor? So what are the benefits, specifically in our industry as photographers and designers, to be registering a company or to rather run a business?
The question gets asked all the time, and it's a loaded question, and you can go into quite a lot of detail. But as a simple rule, if it's just one owner starting a business and there's no sort of partnership involved, I would always suggest starting a sole proprietor. Most startups don't expect to have a major turnover in the first couple of years. And the major tax benefit is that you get taxed on a tax sliding scale as an individual. So sole proprietor is basically you trading as an individual. You and the business is essentially one tax person. That sliding scale starts from around 18% and it can go all the way up to 45%. So it's a balancing act between what the tax benefit would be as a sole proprietor and as a company. As a general rule, if you are paying tax on a sliding scale as a sole proprietor, which is going to be more than 28%, I would start thinking about registering a company and whether the costs involved in running that company would outweigh the tax benefits.
When you register a bank account, are you able to register a bank account for sole proprietor as a business account?
So yes, lots of sole proprietors don't know this, but you are able to go to the bank and open a specific bank account just for your business, which will be in your own name. Yes, and then it's a separate account that you can use for all your business-related expenses and income.
Okay. Why would you keep your separate accounts and your business account separately, or the transactions, personal and business transactions, separately?
So lots of people start out using their personal accounts, just not knowing any better, but it really makes so much business sense to open a separate business bank account. Not only does it make an emotional shift between what your business is making and the actual business related expenses compared to what your personal life is costing you. Lots of entrepreneurs and sole proprietors are under this illusion that they're not making any money, but it's most of the time it's because their personal life is costing them so much money and they actually don't know what they're making as a profit for their business. And yes, I would have a separate business bank account just so that you can see what your business is making, and also in order to make good financial decisions based on the information you have to work with. If you know what your actual profit is and what your revenue streams are costing you, and in order to base your decisions on that whole report that you get when you have separated everything.
Okay, so on the note of personal transactions and business transactions, when can you run specific claims that we might see as personal expenses but you run through your business? So what type of expenses can you run through your business that we as entrepreneurs might see as more personal claims?
Yes. So any expense that you use in your business as well as in your personal life, say for instance your cell phone bill or the internet you've got at home, all of those expenses can be claimed in a percentage wise. So you can say, listen, I'm using this 50% for business or 50% for personal transactions, and I would take an average of say 3 months worth of itemized billing and just base that percentage you're applying on something that if SARS asks for you to validate that claim, then you've got something to submit to them. Other expenses that you're able to claim, especially if you work from home, if you've got a dedicated office like you have or a dedicated studio, there are lots of expenses you can claim that is both personal and business related. For instance, if you're renting the house you're living in, you can multiply the percentage that your floor area is taking up of your office and studio space compared to the entire house. You can also claim security that you're paying for your home space, but you can claim it as a percentage of what you're using as an office.
Okay, thank you. One of the concerns that photographers do have is whether they should be VAT registered and have a VAT number. The reason that specific concern comes up is that clients would ask for a VAT certificate in doing business with them. So my question to you is it necessary to be VAT registered, specifically if you're an individual that's an entrepreneur, freelancer that's doing work?
So I would jump and say no, stay away from it for as long as you're able to legally stay away from it. In order to register for VAT, there is a requirement to make at least R1 million turnover in any 12-month period. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to be registered if you're turning less than that or expecting to turn less than that in a 12-month period. If someone asks you for a VAT number and you are not VAT registered, I would simply just say not applicable. And if they have some sort of problem with that, then I would look into what your reasons are for wanting to be VAT registered. If it's going to be bringing in a hell of a lot more sales, being able to do business with these entities, then sure, outweigh the costs of registering for VAT, getting an accountant involved to run your books, to do the bi-monthly VAT reconciliations, take into account all of the costs involved in registering yourself or your business as a VAT vendor, and weigh that up against the business you're hoping to attract. And just keep in mind that it should be a long-term decision. If that's the line of business you want to go into, then make it a long-term decision. If it's a once-off gig you're trying to get with a corporate company, if you're VAT registered, you're VAT registered. You can deregister, but you can't jump in between being VAT registered or choosing to apply VAT to some of your invoices. It's a legal requirement to then have your tax invoices comply to all sorts of requirements. You need to do proper VAT reconciliations. You need to have proper supporting documents for all of the VAT you're claiming against what you need to pay SARS. So there's so much to take into account. If you are not earning and having to be registered legally, I would stay away from it for as long as possible.
Okay.
So if you are not VAT registered, I would simply call the invoice an invoice and not a tax invoice, and I would keep the VAT column completely empty. And not even mention that unless your software automatically puts it there. But I would stay away from trying to make anyone think that I'm VAT registered when I'm not.
So I myself would rather deal with an accountant to do my books, and that way I'm also ensuring that I know that my books are up to date and that my returns are done. And my accountant holds me accountable for that by me using an accountant. Why would you rather do that in general than trying to manage it yourself? And can you manage it yourself?
Yes, by all means. There's no legal requirement that says that you have to have an accountant do your books and your taxes for you. You are able to do it all yourself. If you are someone who has the time and some sort of knowledge to try and keep a spreadsheet or an accounting software up to date, then by all means do it all yourself, and you can even do your tax return yourself. But I would at the very least just speak to an accountant once and get some tax advice based on what you're normally claiming and whether that is right or wrong and how you should rather be doing it. But as a general rule, you don't need to jump to go to an accountant if you've got it figured out to some extent. When it starts, you'll get uncomfortable at a stage, or your time will be better spent working on your own business than trying to figure out your taxes. If you get to that stage, go to an accountant, get professional advice, whether it's on an ongoing basis or once off. They need to be up to date on all the things that change in the Tax Act. And just possibly something to mention is make sure that when you do approach an accountant that they are actually registered. They need to be registered as a tax practitioner if they need to submit your taxes on your behalf. and they need to be registered with some sort of accounting body. Then you know that they are keeping up to date with all the relevant changes in the acts.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes, if they are not registered, you have no way of knowing that they know any more than what you do.
No, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Because I think we're quite easy to get a vendor and not
Yes.
actually do the proper background checks in order to make sure that it's a healthy transaction.
Yeah, it's very
a
easy.
benefit.
It's very easy. You simply ask them where are they registered and what is their membership or registration numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just Google Verified Tax Practitioner, SARS, and you can type in the number there and you can actually verify that that person is registered.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's good to know. Do you have any other general tips for creative people in general, or any business financial tips that could apply to them in the area that you work in?
I think lots of creatives come to me when everything is just a massive mountain in front of them. They've been going for 2 years but they've never done anything right, or they've been going for 10 years and they've never done anything right. Just start somewhere. Just if it is just an Excel spreadsheet keeping track of what's coming in and what's going out, just start somewhere, start doing your returns, and just start somewhere and do things right.
So don't be scared of it.
They're all scared of it, but face that insecurity, because as a business owner, you're liable for so many things beyond producing something to sell. Unfortunately, you are liable to tell SARS, listen, this is what I earn and this is the tax I need to pay on that. And get professional advice to make sure you're not paying tax on something you don't need to, and you're claiming all the tax deductions that you're able to.
And that mountain probably just gets bigger the longer you wait.
That mountain is sometimes so big that people just ignore it. But the problem is that's not legal. You need to legally declare what you're earning. Plus, if SARS comes knocking 10 years later and you need to supply them with records for 10 years, that's going to cost you a hell of a lot more than just doing it right from the start. If you're able to do it right from the start, that's fantastic. But if you're in a space where you need to now get your ducks in a row, just start somewhere.
Hanneke has some wonderful resources, and she has resources that she's starting specifically for creative people where they can manage like the DIY stuff for the accounting themselves. She explains things in a very simple way and it's easy to understand, specifically for someone like me that I run away from numbers. Well, I don't run away from it, I do face it, but it makes me want to run away. So thank you for coming on the channel.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yes, and where can people find these wonderful resources of yours?
So my website is digitsaccounting.co.za, and I sell the resources on there, or get in contact with me if you have specific questions or want to. Never think that because it's a professional service that you're just doomed and you will never be able to afford that. That's the way I used to feel about the legal side of things, because it's just this mountain in front of me and I tackled it and it's a good thing to tackle. Accounting is a good thing to tackle. Just get someone on board, someone who's interested in creatives, and someone who's able to help you in a way. Yes.
Okay, so Digits Accounting, and I'll put a link in the description below to all her details. Her Instagram page is amazing. I do want to point that out because I like pretty and shiny things.
Thank you.
I like it because I'm visual. She really has a phenomenal brand, and definitely go give her a follow and see what she's up to.
The power of doing things right. Lots of people come and they just need an accountant to sort out outstanding tax returns or whatever. But the power I've seen in getting your books designed in a way that makes sense to you financially, that carries so much weight. Like, if you're able to then make decisions on that. I have a client with 7 different revenue streams, and for the first time in 5 years she was able to see, but 3 of them weren't making any actual money. That's the benefit of either figuring it out yourself and doing proper accounts, or getting an accountant to do it for you. But you can make financial decisions that essentially is to the benefit of your business and your personal life.
Okay, sure. you, Hanneke. So, as always, keep on inspiring and be evoked by your own creativity. And this week, go out and go do something awesome. And go and feel empowered.